I'm Dr. John Dabach, and I answer your email questions about relationships. Let's jump into the email. Dear John, my husband says he wants honesty, but every time I tell him how I really feel, it turns into a fight or he shuts down. So I've started holding things in just to keep the peace. Now he says I'm distant and not open enough. How do you be honest with someone who can't handle the truth? Danielle in Phoenix, Arizona. Danielle, what you're describing is one of the most frustrating and common traps in relationships, and it will quietly kill intimacy if it doesn't get addressed directly. You're being asked for honesty, but you're also being punished for it. So you adapt, you get quieter, you filter yourself, you're going to smooth things over, and now you're being blamed for the very distance that the reaction is causing. That's the loop. And if you don't break it, I hate to say it, but it just keeps tightening until you feel completely alone in the relationship. Now let's call this what it actually is. This is not an honesty problem. This is an emotional safety problem. Honesty only works when the person on the receiving end can tolerate discomfort without collapsing, without attacking, or without withdrawing. Now, your husband says he wants the truth, but what he really wants is a version of the truth that doesn't challenge him, that doesn't make him uncomfortable, and doesn't require him to regulate his own emotions. And let's just be clear, that's not honesty, that's control disguised as openness. Now let's look at your side, because you've done what most people do in this situation. You adapted to keep the relationship stable. You learned that being fully honest leads to conflict or shutdown, so you started editing yourself. You softened things, you held things back, you chose peace over truth, and that makes sense in the short term because it reduces friction, makes things easier. But in the long term, it creates distance because you can't feel close to someone you're not being real with. And now you're stuck in a double bind. If you speak honestly, it blows up. If you stay quiet, you feel disconnected and he complains that you're distant. There is no winning move inside of the system as it currently exists. So the solution is not to get better at delivering the truth more gently or perfectly. It's too high of a bar. The solution is to change the structure of how truth is handled in your relationship. Now, that starts with naming what's happening directly. You got to call it out, not in the middle of a fight. Okay, there's a right and a wrong time and place for this. Not when emotions are already high. In a grounded moment, in a grounded, calm moment, you say something like, "You want honesty, but when I share how I actually feel, it either turns into a fight or you shut down." That's made it really hard for me to be open, and that's why I've started holding things in. Notice the delivery, right? It's sensitive, it's compassionate, that matters. Now, that's not an attack, that's a reality check. And then you go one step further, because this is where most people stop and then nothing changes. You set a standard. You say something like, if we're going to have honesty in this relationship, it has to be safe to tell the truth without it turning into punishment. Now, here's the part that matters most. You have to stop overfunctioning to compensate for his underfunctioning. Right now, you're doing emotional gymnastics to try to say things like, the right way so that he doesn't react poorly. You're managing his reactions instead of expecting him to manage himself. He's an adult. He's a big boy. He's got to do it. And that keeps him stuck when you do that. Because as long as you keep adjusting, he never has to grow. So what does that look like in practice? It means that you say what you need to say clearly and respectfully, and then you let his reaction be his responsibility, not yours. If he gets defensive, that's his work. If he shuts down, that's his work. You don't chase him, you don't backtrack, and you don't immediately soften your truth to make him more comfortable. That doesn't mean you become harsh. It doesn't mean you become careless. It means you stay grounded. You might say, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm trying to be honest so we can be closer, but I can't keep doing this if every time I open up and I tell you something, it turns into something negative. Notice it's the same tone. It's that same compassion, but you don't waver, right? You pause after that. You don't fill the silence. You don't rescue the moment. You let him sit with it. It might be uncomfortable. That's okay, because right now he's never had to actually do that. And I want to be very clear about something, Danielle, because this is where people get stuck for years. If he truly can't tolerate your honesty, then the relationship is going to force you into one of two roles. You either become small and agreeable to keep the peace, or you become resentful and distant because your needs aren't being met. Neither of those lead to a healthy marriage. The only path forward is growth on his side from the little bit of knowledge that you're giving me. He has to learn how to hear things that are uncomfortable without taking them as an attack on his identity. Now, that's emotional maturity. And you can't do that work for him. No one can do it for him. What you can do is create the conditions where that growth becomes necessary. Now, that means being consistent. It means not retreating back into silence the moment things get tense. And it also means recognizing when this isn't just a communication issue, but possibly a deeper pattern that may require outside help, like couples therapy or even individual therapy for him. Because sometimes people need a third party to slow things down and help them hear each other without spiraling. But I'm going to give you one more truth here that you need to hold on to because it's going to keep you grounded as you move forward. Honesty is not the problem in your relationship. The inability to receive honesty is the problem. And if that doesn't change, no amount of better wording, better timing, or better delivery is going to fix it. So you don't ask yourself, how do I say this perfectly so he won't react? You ask yourself, am I willing to keep showing up honestly, even if he does react, and hold the line until something shifts? Because that's where real change happens. If this hit home for you, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want your own question answered, check the description of this episode for instructions on how to submit your question.